Welcome to the Builders Coach Show. I'm Kurt Heggetschweiler, the founder of Builders Coach. And Jessica, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome back, everyone. So Kurt, can you believe it? We are end of the year in a couple of weeks. The year's over. We will be in 2025. So I think what we want to focus on today is really this reflection and review exercise. We obviously do reflection and review on a quarterly basis. So we've got Q4, but more than that, we also want to do a review for the whole year, right?
Absolutely. Like you've got to stop and take stock each quarter, but also at the end of the year, really look back. And, we're talking about it just yesterday, like look at the truth of what happened, because there's different cycles in life. Like you have ups and downs, you have wins, you have lessons, you have things that don't turn out the way you expected, but you need to look at it and extract the lessons and carry them forward, and that's how you become more successful, and you either win or you learn. So the 12-month reflection and review process is a little more in depth than just the 12-week. And it's not only looking at systems, processes, team, but also mindset. And where you as the leader of the business, of your business, can take more responsibility. It's important to think about not only how you improve your systems and your marketing and your revenue and your profit and your workflow, but how do you improve yourself as the leader? Because what got you here is not going to get you to where you want to go. And if you've got aspirations to do bigger and better things, you need to ask yourself, who do I need to be? And that's possibly the most difficult thing, I'd say.
Yeah. So we are telling our listeners and your builders that obviously we go through these, was it 13 questions that we have in the...
14 now.
Yeah,
we
14.
Added the donkey on the bridge.
Correct, yes. So we've got 14 questions that we go through for the quarter. So encourage everyone to do those for this Q4, and then obviously setting up for Q1 of 2025. But
Absolutely.
then what are some of the questions that you ask yourself to look at the whole year?
So first up, like let's frame up the positive, like three biggest positives, and then or three biggest wins. Sorry, and that could be business or personal. For us, like a wedding would be up there. Maybe you purchased a property, built your dream home, whatever it is. So it's three biggest wins, then biggest positive. So you really hone it in on what was the single biggest positive, and then conversely biggest negative. And then what did you learn from all of those? From both, the good and the bad. And I think that can be confronting for some people, is looking at what went wrong, because we all human make mistakes. So a lot of the time, and that's where it's taking responsibility and recognizing where maybe you as the leader of the business need to change and improve.
Okay. And then you were telling me yesterday also about really looking at the whole year, and then thinking of emotionally what were the high and the lows. Because sometimes we talk about wins and and negatives, but I think it's also good to just check when you were, where are the feelings in
how
that,
did you
right?
feel?
Yeah, how did you feel about something? Because some things can go wrong, negatives, but really you manage them really well, and therefore it's like, well, we managed that pretty well, so that's okay. But sometimes for smaller things, maybe you feel like it really has a massive impact on you. So I think it's good to see it from this other, like, slightly different perspective of really what are highs and lows emotionally, mentally, and kind of take stock of those ones.
Yeah, that's a Tim Ferriss exercise. I love it. Just go through I'll just go through my calendar each week and look at everything that happened, and then the emotional highs and lows will jump out at you because they impact you, and we're emotional creatures. And then you just capture those. You can literally get a sheet of paper, a line down the middle, emotional highs, emotional lows, and then you write them down and look at them, and then ask yourself, what was it that happened, that gave you the emotional highs and lows, and maybe it was a situation, maybe you caused it, maybe it was someone else, and then can you, in your planning for next year, have more things that give you emotional highs and things that give you emotional lows. But if you extrapolate further, like we were talking about, a difficult week in the lead up to the wedding, and went through some challenges, but were able to deal with it, rise above it, and that taught us a bit about ourselves and what we were capable of. So if things only went well, and if things only ever go well, you're not really going to learn much, are you?
Yeah.
So being able to go through a bit of turbulence with someone else, it teaches you about each other, and it often bonds people as well. You know, people go through a difficult time together, and you come out the other end, and then you've got a stronger connection because of that. In fact, I read a quote, I can't remember who it was, but it was along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, one day you will look back on your most difficult years with fondness. You know, when you went through, it's like when you think back to when you're a student, you had no money and you were like, had to come up with creative ways to scrape, so like looking for change inside the couch to get a couple of beers, or you'd go out and like my brother was like that, he'd go and, you know, with no money, come back with, you know, have a great night, you know, using his charm and charisma to get free drinks, and then he'd come home with $20 in his pocket. You know, and it was
with
like
more money than when he went out.
Than when he left.
Yeah.
So there's things like that, like when you're older, you're obviously never going to be doing something like that. But then you, at the time, it's like, this is hard, but you can look back on those difficult times of fondness,
Yeah. I also think that, and I started doing the exercise, by the way, looking at the year for lows and highs. And I think you also see patterns that maybe you missed because now you're taking a step back and we're looking at the whole year. But yeah, potentially patterns around the highs, but also maybe patterns around the lows. And I think that indicates to is it circumstance, is it people, is it mindset, like your own mindset, etc. So I think that's a really good exercise. Would really recommend doing it.
Something I'd recommend people do as well is when you have captured the lows. So the painful pain, let's be like frank, like these situations that maybe you were betrayed, or someone stole from you, or cheated, or lied, or and sadly it happens a bit in business. Someone turns, like a Jekyll and Hyde thing, and it causes a lot of discomfort. Ask yourself, like, how did you deal with that situation? Because there's your sphere of control, like the things you can control and the things you can't control. Like we can't control what Donald Trump does, right, over in the US, or the macroeconomic conditions, or if another pandemic hits, or if a war breaks out. That's outside of our control. The one thing you always will be able to control is how you respond to different situations. So when you're looking at those negatives, like, how did you handle it? Were you able to deal with it in a way that you didn't make that situation worse? And I'm only saying that because I've spoken to a few people recently that were treated badly in a business situation by some of their clients, and the way they responded definitely made it worse. What they chose to do was burn bridges. Like so someone didn't pay them, and then they went and told them exactly what they thought of them, and completely fractured the relationship, as well as potentially threatened them or whatever it is. And that sort of thing, I think, come back to bite you.
Yeah.
And it often does.
Yeah.
Like, I've learned that. I mean, I've been guilty of doing things, like handling situations badly. And then we all have, right? We all make mistakes. And then sometimes 5, 10, 15 years later, and life has a way of doing that, right? Like bringing things back, and then you've got to clean up your mess.
Yeah.
So I think that's, again, just going, a few steps beyond just looking at the highs and lows is what happened, how did you deal with it, what can you learn from how you dealt with it. Maybe you dealt with it well, like I'll talk about Stoicism in Marcus Aurelius, that philosophy of, strict on self, lenience on others. I heard some guys talking about it recently where they were saying, Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, right? Like, he'd wake up in the morning and say to himself, I just know people are going to do really dumb shit. They're going to piss me off. They're going to, you know what I mean? Like, they're going to do things that are spiteful and nasty, and they're going to let me down. And I've just got to lean in. You got to be like that rock because it's not going to stop. Like, life's not going to stop. It's not going to go, okay, well, you special, so you're just going to have everything's going to be fine now. You're not going to have any emotional lows. You keep getting hit. So you can either react badly, or you can just accept there's a certain amount. Obviously, you don't want to stay in an abusive relationship or deal with a toxic client if you don't have to. But when it does hit, don't make it worse.
Yeah.
No, that's something I learned this year. just through observing.
For observing. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that's for reviewing the year. Now, any specific, in terms of like setting goals for 2025, do you set goals for, again, the next 12 weeks or for the whole year? Like, what's your view on that?
That's a good question, actually. Like from a business plan perspective, 12 weeks is the perfect timeline. And they may even reduce that, like because things are changing so rapidly, right? The world is just changing so quickly. I heard Elon Musk talking just yesterday about how with AI, like you use ChatGPT, Grok, you know, AI is coming into our lives in through lots of different areas like marketing and, you know, just, you know, as a search engine thing, right? So 10x is the, like every 12 months, that's like the level of improvement. So whatever AI ability you're seeing now, this is straight out of Elon's mouth, 12 months from now it'll be 10 times more powerful. And then 12 months after that, it'll be 10 times more powerful than that. So there's this compounding effect where 4 or 5 years from now, it'll be 100,000 times more powerful. This will be before 2030. So it's hard really to predict, but you can see how, you know, once they encase that in robotics, you get those humanoid robots that'll be able to do a lot of things for us and be very switched on. Basically more intelligent than all the people combined. So we digress. What was your original question?
My question was around goals.
Yeah.
And I think before you answer, I think you said to me that people set too aggressive goals for 12 months, but not aggressive enough for, was it 5 years? Is that right?
People generally overestimate what they're going to achieve in 12 months and underestimate what they're going to achieve in 10 years.
Oh, yes.
So like mindset's a big thing. Yeah, that's where we got, of course, a 12-week plan is the best. Yeah. And like you'll know, you've done enough of these yourself, like just deciding what goes into your 12-week plan for the first 3 months of the next calendar year is a challenge because there's more to do than you'll ever be able to do. So by deciding what you are going to do, you say no to a whole lot of other things, and you've got to decide, okay, well, they're going to go in the next plan. So there's that decision-making process, prioritizing. That's why the reflection and review process is so important. You're looking back at, you know, what is important now based on the trajectory on, and then based on where we want to go. So your question was, you know, how long-term goals versus that 12-week plan. So 3 years, 12 months, you know, 6-month goals, revenue, team structure, maybe a development arm for builders that, you know, once you're profitable, it's a best strategy I've seen to offset tax. That's the best business model, right? Consistent flow of quality client work with good margin, and then a development arm. And when I say developments, I've had a couple of people knee-jerk back, that's risky, you can go under. And yes, developments are very risky. I'm talking about like an owner-occupier, just a small development, buy a piece of property, add some value because you can do that as a builder, and then keep it. Rent it out, Airbnb it, wait a while, buy another one and add to it, and over time you can build generational wealth. But that's the process. So as you work through a 12-week plan, at the end of that 12-week plan, reflect, review, lay the track for the next 12 weeks, you look up ahead at the 12-month goals and the 3-year goals. Yeah. So some people, I mean, Dan Sullivan, best business coach in the world in Canada, he talks about having a 20-year plan. That's how you can take the pressure off. Like a lot of people listening, if I say 7-figure club, they're like, oh my God, how could you do that? Because they just don't have a lot of money or they're starting out. But if you make it a long-term goal, like you can do that in 3 years, even if you're a standing start, but just say 10 years. So now all of a sudden that time pressure's off, and then you can adjust that. You can, you know, course correct as you go. Yeah. Which I find is the thing that's happening more and more now, just because things are changing so rapidly.
Yeah. Do you have a few like success stories from your clients that we can reflect on from this year?
Yes, yeah. I've got a young guy I'm working with, quite funny. He matriculated or finished year 12, his schooling career in 2005, and he had only ever read one book. It was Harry Potter, you know, from cover to cover. Yes. And the second book he read was mine.
Amazing.
And because of the relevance of the content, because he's motivated like in being successful in his business, and he's had some breaks, some positive breaks, like he's had some good jobs come through, and he's making good money, and it's exciting, and he's on this positive upward spiral with business development. So everything in my book was highly relevant, that just fueled that enthusiasm. But now he's into reading more books, and he's read Who Not How and a number of other books as well, like I think 10X by Grant Cardone. So he's it's great. It's a feel-good story for me. I love the fact that I've got this guy into reading.
Yeah.
That it's helping him.
Nice. Any of your clients, achieve something extraordinary this year?
Lots. Phenomenal. One of our, like a lot of them, it's interesting. I get asked, like people go, what's happening in the economy? What are you seeing in the building industry? And I had a webinar today where I was talking about the macroeconomic situation and where we're seeing things headed next year and the year after. But really, our guys are doing pretty much the exact opposite of the masses. Because if you look at the masses, 89% of builders don't do business development. Our guys do. Our guys are creating their own economy. So come back to that sphere of control. They're taking control of their business, doing lots of marketing, sales, overbooking the flight, picking and choosing clients, increasing their margins. And there's pretty much all of them. One that I spoke to yesterday, they said to me, Kurt, we've just booked ourselves out for 2026. All right.
Nice.
So they cannot take on another job unless they restructured their business and their team until 2027. So a lot of the guys come to me, they want to have 12 or 18 months in front of them. These guys have got 2 years plus and heading towards 7-figure club.
Amazing.
So just unbelievable. And it's fascinating because, and anyone listening, you need to hear this, right? These people 12 months ago, and every single person listening would have experienced this, were having thoughts of, should we throw in the towel? This is too much. It's just the amount of effort they're putting in. It's relentless. It's ruthless. It's never ending. It's 60, 80-hour weeks sometimes, and there's no real significant gain. And they've had a breakthrough now where they can see, they can touch it, the 7-figure club. And it's completely transformed not only their business, but their life as well, and their kids' future and everything else. And that's why I do what I do, man. I absolutely love seeing people go through that positive transformation. But it's scary to think how many people give up. You don't hear, they just go, let's go work for someone else. And they were like 3 feet from gold. All they had to do was reach out and get help. Yeah. So
that's amazing incredible. Results. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then another, just to give some specifics around it, because obviously it works a coaching program. We do one-on-one coaching. It's very nuanced because a big part of what we do is also mindset and leadership. Everyone's different. Everyone's business is different. But one of our guys had his best year ever, significant amount of profit. And we did a review. So what was it specifically that he changed? And what it came down to was charging for quotes, which is a day one conversation. I was on this webinar today. I was like, who's charging for quotes? About a third. If you're not doing it, just do it. I can teach you to do that within 3 weeks. And you do not have to learn how to sell, right? It's a sales process. Just follow the steps. And anyone listening, I guarantee you, I can get someone paying you for a quote and thanking you for the privilege, okay? Prove me wrong. I can challenge anyone listening, okay? I can do that in a very quick turnaround as well. So this guy did that. Then, I know most people love quoting, all right? Not, right? It's just a bugbear. They just hate it, most builders, right? I met one that does, and he opened an estimating company where he does quotes for other builders now, right? That's 1 in 20 years, but they don't like it. It also takes a lot of time. They're busy on site all day or running around or in the office, and then they've got to now crunch numbers, right? Yeah. So this guy took the money that people paid him for the quote and gave it to an estimator. We've got some of the best in the country who's better at quoting than him, which frees up hundreds of hours a year. And then because of that, he was able to focus more on the front end, nurture relationships with architects, and put his margin up. And it all came back to just having a sales process that works, where he could charge for quotes, work with a great estimator, outsource that component, add more value to his clients, because most quotes aren't worth the paper they're written on, and made significantly more money. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing results, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Hey, coming back to the 12-week plan, I went through one this morning with someone, and they were a bit reluctant to do it. They did the reflection review amazingly well. And by the way, you answer those 14 questions. Let's include them in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll
those questions, so people can go through it. And you can, again, just rinse and repeat every 12 weeks. But they had a plan with probably 13 projects. When I say projects, like revamp website, complete capability statement, like a hard copy brochure that communicates to their clients, plus they can use for networking, go through some joint venture networking with architects, real estate agents. And then they had the 12-week timeline for all the different steps. Like if you're going to do your website, you've got to find a web developer, you've got to get some photos, you've got to get some video content, testimonials. And each of the projects had at least 10 steps. So 10 times 13 is 130. And some of those steps are sequential.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say to them, imagine you had that in your head. Imagine trying to hold it. You can't. Like you cannot hold 130 sequential steps in your head. That's 12 weeks.
Yeah.
All right. Imagine trying to have a business plan for 12 months. You need to write it down or house it somewhere, like whether it's an Excel spreadsheet, piece of paper, on a whiteboard, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But take it out of your head. Yeah.
Yeah, because it takes up some energy and space, right? Yeah.
Massive. I think Einstein said, like, lists, paper is for lists, for to-do lists. Your brain is for thinking.
Yeah.
So you want to...
Yeah, that's a good one. No, that's great advice right there. What I wanted to talk about maybe is reflect a little bit on Builder's Coach.
Yes.
2024.
Some of our wins.
Yeah, some of our wins. What are some of the things that you want to share, like some successes?
Hands down doing this, right? Like this podcast. I was reluctant to do it because I want to create a rod for my back, and I'm like, we're gonna. Everyone else is podcasting, and a lot of people they do it as a way to. I mean, I don't want to badmouth anyone, but you do get a lot of like influencers and show ponies, and but it's been the best decision. Just like showcasing, like sharing the journey, like documenting the journey. And we speak to so many people, so much happens, and we don't get to share like a tenth of what happens in a week on these pods. But I suppose the best thing, it doesn't feel like work. It's like we're having a conversation and just sharing what we learn, which is awesome. So that the other big one for me, which I was reluctant to use this analogy, which is it's like giving birth, because I don't want to offend women, and I can't imagine what that's like. But finishing the second edition of my book felt like giving birth. Man, and I've heard one of my mentors said that to me, and I was like, really, that bad? It was more difficult than the first edition, but I'm very proud to announce that 18 freaking months later, on the way to South Africa, I got it done, man. I did it I think 150 pages in the lead up, that phrase, you don't need more time, what you need is a deadline. So use the wedding as a deadline, and finally got that thing done. So it's still going to be, 2-3 months at best before we get anything in our hands, but stand by for, watch this space.
Yes.
$1 Billion Builder 2 is on its way.
Second edition.
Yeah.
And I can, I've witnessed, I think we've done a lot of trips overseas this year, and I think every time you got on a plane, you're writing your book.
Yeah.
So yes, and thank God we travel so much.
7 overseas trips since October last year, and we're getting on a plane again tomorrow to go to Thailand for Sean's wedding. But do you remember the T-shirt I wore? That
which one?
That Muhammad Ali shirt where he's standing over. I've got that T-shirt we got in LA of him standing over. I think it's Sonny Liston or one of those iconic fights that he had.
Yeah.
And I put that on straight after, when we landed in Joburg, because it was and that my book was on the floor. You know what I mean? Knocked out.
Done. Knocked
out. Because
yes.
I can tell you now, there was moments where I was like, am I going to get this thing done? I was down on myself. And I am prone to not always following through on everything to the end. And if you're going to do something like that, that's an important project. The first edition went so well and had such a positive impact. I needed to make sure that it was, at that level,
the
but
pressure,
better.
Yes.
Yeah. Now I know how musicians, when they come up with a great album, you can see why they stop, like Rolling Stones, whatever. They just stop because how do you produce something if it's your best work ever that you hit a bit of a home run on? Not to say that's what I did, but it was received better than I expected.
Yeah.
So now, the second edition, it needs to be better, right? Which means you need to put in. And I think I look back at my past self, I'm like, he put in. The first edition, because you were telling me you got through a painful experience like childbirth, and you forget.
I
You
told you
forget,
that.
right? We like wired to
Yeah,
forget.
apparently we like this is a true, like a real thing. We are wired to not remember some painful things in our life. So like it's actually a real thing for women. Like people will tell you like 5 years later,
Blocks it
oh
out.
that yeah, oh it wasn't that bad. It was fine. It was horrible. You know.
That's
But like, and so apparently that's a real thing for everyone, for men and women. That when we reminiscing about the past, the painful things are not as painful as they were actually. At that moment in time.
okay. Explain
So-
this to me. Explain this to me.
Yeah.
If that is true, how come every time a guy does something wrong, a woman can remember?
It means it was
from 3
even
years
worse
ago,
than what
they'll
they
go
remembered.
Tuesday, the 27th of July. You know, in 2003, you said this to me. We were sitting in a cafe. You were eating carrot cake.
I
With
didn't
a
say
blue
they
shirt
forget
on.
completely. Just forget how bad it really was. So if they remember something still bad, it means it was really bad back then. Just remember that.
Okay.
And then maybe in a few years later, it wouldn't be that bad. You don't know. But yeah, so no, I can imagine that you wrote your first edition of your book, your first book, and then you thought, oh, I'll just do a second one now. And then when you were in the process of doing it, you were like, wow, this was way harder than
It's
I
monster.
thought.
It's absolutely next level. But proud to say I got that. So those would be the two things: pod,
Yeah, and your book.
Then you got to build a two, and obviously, like on a personal front, the wedding.
Oh yeah.
And it just goes on and on and on. Like these,
We've had a pretty good year. I mean, on a personal note, but also like from the business perspective, it's been a lot of
Incredible.
some
You
good
getting
highs.
involved was great.
Yes, and then the whole marketing things. A lot of progression.
Shall we? What did you want to talk about next? I wanted to touch on your becoming self, who you become. Remember we had a conversation about that, and it related to a nephew of mine who I'm sort of mentoring and helping, and big heart but needs a bit of guidance. And teenagers, man, if you've got teenagers, you know how difficult it is to try and point them in the right direction. And it definitely, like, you can't just give them unsolicited advice. It's almost like when they make mistakes, you're there to to catch them when they fall and then pick them up and then go, okay, so let's look at that. And you need to sandwich it with like love. And because I care about you, I want to tell you what my experience of your behavior was.
Which is not always easy, right? You really because in the moment, sometimes you just want to react. And then you think, okay, now it's not the right time.
But it's fascinating because they have his view of the world. And he's just to give people perspective, he's into his boxing, he's a macho guy, he's out there, he's sociable, like he's not and then we've got another nephew who just sits in his room, doesn't do much. But so that's a different set of challenges altogether. But with him, like he thinks he's being funny or he thinks he's being courageous by being, like with all his bravado, but really there's things he does that are like disrespectful. And then, no one else is really going to point it out. Like he's not at school anymore because school teachers might do that. He does have a great boxing coach who provides help and guidance, but as his uncle, I feel like it's important to do that. But you said something interesting, and that's really important to anyone listening as well, as part of the reflection review process, is thinking about who you need to become. So Alan, we touched on it before, about getting clear on the specific leadership attributes that you most need to develop based on where you want to go. So based on your goals and the direction you're headed in, what do you most need to learn, or what skill set do you most need to develop? Really think about that, answer the question, who do you need to become? Because it's about building character. Building character is, one of the most powerful things you can do as a leader. I think build that character, and then other people are more inclined to follow you into battle, so to speak. And then really directing that. So what are the books, the courses, the mentors that you can seek out to help accelerate your progress in those specific areas?
I think, and this is how someone else explained it to me, or like how I visualize it, but and it goes whether you're talking about who do you want to become or who you are. Decide who you are, who you want to become, and even you can do this exercise like for the next year. What do you want to achieve? And if you've got that clear in your head, then afterwards all the small decisions on your pathway are going to become quite easy to make, because it will always be like, if you have to choose between X or Y, it'll be like, well, what's aligned to where I want to be, or is it aligned to who I want to become? Okay, and then it becomes a yes no.
It's like your North Star, and that's the one attribute that all people have in common. And just going back to that guy's wife that I was talking to that turned up on the coaching call, and then she said he's been disrespected. I said, like, Napoleon Hill's book Think and Grow Rich, it's the Bible for leadership and personal development. It's so important. I don't know if you're familiar with that story. Andrew Carnegie, richest man in the world in the 1920s or 30s, was like a steel magnate. He got Napoleon Hill to research 500 most successful people in the world. It took him 26 years. No one's ever done it since, or probably will. And his primary objective was to find out what the similarities are. And he was struck by how few there were. Like, there were people from poor backgrounds, rich backgrounds, whatever it is, but he was able to find like 18. And decisiveness and knowing what you want is one of the most important things, which makes perfect sense. Like, you think of anyone successful, they know what they want, and then by virtue of that, they know what they don't want. So it's quick and easy decision making, and decision making is a hallmark of leadership. Like, if you know where you're going, you know what you want to achieve, things come up, opportunities or whatever it is, you go, is it going to take me long enough to where I want to go? Yes, okay, exactly. I'll consider it, or no, it's a no.
Yeah.
It's so deciding and then having conviction behind it as well helps.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how few people do it, because you talk about it sounds ridiculous how simple it is. Like, go after what you want, but I think people are scared.
No, but sometimes
to
also
lock in on
like
something. Sometimes
you're like, you find you're struggling to make a decision, right? And ask yourself, why are you struggling to make a decision? You should have a clear idea of what is your goal, what are you trying to achieve, like, and not just in this specific situation for this decision, but like in life in general. Or who are you, or who are you trying to be? Like, who do you want to become, etc. And when that is clear, then I think decision making just becomes a bit easier. But we've spoke about this quote, which I think is an awesome quote, going back to, especially for younger people. Do you want to tell us?
Which one's that?
I think it's along the lines of the world will ask you who you are, and if you don't have an answer, they will tell you.
Yes, I saw that just this week. I was brilliant. Yeah, the world will ask you who you are, and if you don't have an answer, it will show you. Carl Jung, yeah. And that's so true. Yeah. Like, if you are indecisive, you're like a cork bopping around in the ocean. And then you also, why do people do that? Because they're scared what they decide. And I remember working with someone once who, talking about, this is way back in my early 20s, I worked for a pharmaceutical company, and I'd be like, I want to work for myself, get into business, get the hell out of the corporate world. I couldn't stand it. And then she was like, but what if you fail? What if you decide to do that, as in set that goal, and then it doesn't work out? And you could hear the fear in her voice and the anxiety. And I hadn't even really thought about that. You know what I mean? Like, I did do some research, which is why I became a coach, because I looked into, what are the stats, and 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years, and of them, 80%, like 4 in 100 make it to 10 or whatever it is. And I was like, I better get a mentor, I better get a coach, and I did. And then the coach asked me, what are you doing? I wanted to learn about business. He said you should become a coach. But the fear and anxiety around locking in on a decision, because what if it doesn't pan out? But it's an easy solution. It's just a mindset thing. You just got to look at it as you'll either win or learn. If it doesn't work out, you'll learn. Like, the only failure is when you give up. Yeah. So most people listening get that. Like, leaders understand, and then it becomes exciting. Like, have a crack, have a go at things. If it doesn't pan out, again, you're going to learn. You build more character, which sets you up for more success. Yeah. But you need to always have something to strive for, right? Because you can end up, staring into the abyss.
Yeah. Awesome. Did we want to say anything else about our year?
Our year, unbelievable record travel.
Oh yes.
So Thailand tomorrow. That'll be 8 since October, and then Maldives coming up.
Honeymoon.
So it'll be
Christmas,
9.
Yes.
I heard someone talk about, we live in Australia, so we're quite isolated down here, but someone did 3 overseas trips in a year. I thought, wow, that's a lot. Like, most people, if they get 1, and some people are prisoners on this island, right? So, but it's they can't, as in they can go to maybe Fiji and New Zealand, but they're a prisoner to their business. They can't go to the US or Europe It's just too far.
Yeah.
But I think 9 in 14 months is a bit much.
Yeah, I think we need to calm down.
Should rein that in. Although I'm really travel fit. Like I don't get
travel fit.
Don't know. The jet lag is not a big issue.
You say you say that every time. Yeah. And you say jet lag is not a thing, and then like literally 2 days ago you were like, "Wow, this jet lag's got me good." So please, no.
Yeah,
you see, you forget. You forget that that's happened to you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, yeah, we've had an amazing year, and it's been really.
But it's
good.
been worthwhile. I mean, creating memories, memories for life. Like, I don't know. I think I'm fortunate because my parents are more experienced than money people, and experiences,
are everything. I think
way
on that too.
Outweigh having the money.
Yeah.
You can always make more money. Yeah, like. Yeah.
To finish off, I've got a few rapid fire questions for you.
Let's go.
Do you want to do it again?
Love it.
Awesome. It has like a Christmas holiday theme to it.
Okay.
Just to put us in the mood. Like I don't know if I'm not feeling the Christmas mood because it's too hot here. Like
it's unbelievable. Yeah.
I'm a winter Christmas person. But let's get into it. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
So 5 question rapid fire, just top of your head. Don't overthink this. What's your go-to Christmas movie that we absolutely have to watch this year?
The Elf one.
The Elf?
What's that? What is it called? The Elf?
Yeah, the Elf, yes.
The guy cracks me up every time. I still laugh at it, right? When he acts like a kid. And then it's not so much him as the people around him, like his dad in the movie. Like, is it called The Christmas Elf? What's the guy? Will Ferrell.
Yeah, it's called The Elf.
That cracks me up every time. So we'll put that in. The kids love it as well.
Awesome.
And then they crack me up as well.
What's the one Christmas tradition you never miss?
Getting a real Christmas tree.
Oh, yes, that's true.
I just love smelling those pines. When I smell a Christmas tree, and it's probably from you can relate because you grew up in Europe, and I spent time in Switzerland, and it's just one of those things, man. I love it.
Yeah, it is. I know, it is a bit weird that it's so hot with the Christmas tree, and then it smells even more because it's so hot, and it's. And
I see people down here, like the Southern Hemisphere people, that what they call us Antipodeans, right? We're Southern Hemisphere. They're like, "What are you doing? Like, it makes a mess. The thing's gonna die. You gotta, it's a big mission to get a tree. Why would you bother?"
Yeah.
But it just brings back a flood of happy memories and emotions.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, if we could spend Christmas anywhere in the world, where would you pick?
Ooh, what now?
Well, I mean, this time we're going on a honeymoon this time, so don't tell me somewhere else, but next time.
White Christmas, like Switzerland.
Yeah, Switzerland.
Yeah, in a Swiss chalet somewhere in the mountains. Fireplace, nice. Fondue.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah. Okay, what's the one dish you hope to have on the Christmas table for lunch?
Leg of lamb with roast potato and maybe a Durban one curry as well. I think we need a full spread.
That's like your normal Sunday lunch, by the way.
You asked a question. What am I? Do you want me to say like a chicken salad or something?
No, like something specifically from Christmas.
I know you eat ham Christmas.
No, I never had ham in my life. Okay,
well.
I do turkey.
Leg of lamb and then a Durban curry. Like people from Durban know what I'm talking about. We had a bunny chow in Cape Town. It was brilliant.
Okay.
It was good.
Oh, okay. This is a redundant question. Remember, it's a rapid fire.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you're most proud of achieving this year?
$1 million bill or two.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say
it's that. It's just like...
Awesome.
I'd have to hold back on the expletives. It was a mother. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. That's it. That's all we got time for.
Awesome.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Yes. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. There's plenty more coming. Take care.
Bye.